Right, so recently the subject of building guitar effects pedals sort of has come up, and I haven't built any for quite a few decades, but I used to when I was a teenager. And I've been buying some of these cheap made pedals recently, and I thought, well, I'll have a look and see if there's any modern books on how to make guitar effects pedals. And I had a look in the usual places, and quite frankly I wasn't that impressed with what's on offer. Although I would say, if you're completely new to this, then some of the details about putting the boxes together and stuff like that could be quite useful. So when I was building my effects in the 80s, I'll show you the books that and early 90s, I'll show you the books that I would have used. So we'll start with this one. And now this is a real gem. You can download this for free now. I did it the other day. This is my original one. It's very yellow. You can see there's a list of components and prices of something I must have been building at one point. And it's got some good basic circuits in it that you can sort of join together and make into more effective things. But it also explains roughly how they work in simple terms, and you can play around with these. So when I used to build these, I would use matrix board and solder it up, and very often the foot switches were the most expensive part. And in many cases, when you were building some of these, like the fuzz box, we used to put it in a little enclosure and then tape it to the back of our strap, and then you could save on having an expensive foot switch and just have a normal little mini toggle switch, and just reach around and switch it on if you were playing a gig or whatever. You didn't have to stamp on it on the floor, and that also meant that you could house it in a plastic box, which was much cheaper at the time. So all of those kind of things we used to do to save money, because we were doing all of this on a pocket money budget. As you can see, this book was £2.50, published in 1980. This is part of a series of books of electronic hobby projects, which is how I started. As you know, when I was about 12, 13, I used to buy these books, dismantle old equipment and try and put things together and collect as much junk as possible. And we used to go down the Edgware Road, where there used to be lots of electronics surplus shops, and you could buy all sorts of weird and wonderful pieces of equipment, and some of which you could harvest for parts. So this is a great book to start, and you can build the projects in here. They're really cheap and they will work. And when I built mine, we didn't have the breadboard, wasn't that it was really expensive, but now you can just order some breadboard, you can get all the components, and you can get those wires to plug into the breadboard in a huge pack, really cheap. So you can get started and you can just start building these things really cheaply. And as I say, this book is downloadable for free. So where do you go next? Well, you could buy a book like this. This goes into a little bit more detail about op-amp circuits. It's fairly simple, and this was part of one book of one of the courses when I went to university to do electronics. In my first year, we did a course on feedback circuits and op-amps, and this was a book for that, and it's pretty good. I don't know if this is still it says here, yeah, first and second year undergraduate. So we did this in my first year, and the other one we did was this one, which is also could be useful. So transistor circuit techniques. So it's kind of a recipe book for putting together little transistor circuits, so you can go even more basic than op-amps. And Gordon Ritchie was the guy who taught this course at my university. He was a nice Scottish gentleman, yeah, he was the guy who wrote this and also did the transistor. And a lot of the courses that we did, there's some more complicated stuff where they made us do differential equations and things, and then in the second year, you throw it all in the bin and use You go to the frequency spectrum with Fourier transforms, but that's leaning more towards digital signal processing. But if you just want to muck about with discrete and integrated transistor circuit, this is a great book. And then finally, this one, IC Op Amp Cookbook. It's got loads of, this is another recipe book for op amp circuits, and it's great. And I used this one when I was building an analog computer a few years ago. Never finished it, but I got bits of it working. So you know you can build the bit that controls the oscilloscope for the display, and you can build an integrator and an adder and all these things, and they're pretty simple. But for analog computing, you tend to need higher quality op amps, and the cheap stuff that you use for audio is I don't know whether it's quite up to it. For demonstration purposes it is, so in the end I didn't finish it, but I've still got all that stuff. So I think maybe what I've been thinking, I might go back to building some effects pedals. And like I say, I think I just might have a muck about with some breadboard. So yeah, these are all good books, and there's probably others that I can recommend. But maybe you want to get one of the new books just to at least give you an idea about because they cover things like enclosures and stuff like that. But really, you can kind of see how that works by just looking at effects pedals you buy, and it's not really a big deal. In my experience, one of the things that was hard was expensive, that limited what we could do, was the foot switches were expensive, as I said, and also the enclosures. We use plastic enclosures because we could drill holes in those using very simple tools and then ream them out to the right size. If you're going to use aluminium or other metal boxes, you need proper drills, and a hand drill you can get away with, but really you want a proper drill that you pull that, a fixed drill that to drill accurate holes, and that sort of thing you find in a metal workshop. But so that's another reason we didn't use metal enclosures. But you don't have to use metal enclosures. You don't have to use any enclosure to have fun and play around. So I would say get this, download this, build a few bits in it on breadboard, and see how you go, and then start mucking around, because most boutique pedals are just these basic circuits, and then you start adding things or putting them together, and that's where the magic comes in, and that's the fun part. So yeah, I would say it's definitely, if you're interested in building your own pedals, you can now do it on breadboard. You don't even need a soldering iron to start. So I think it's definitely more accessible. And yeah, start with this book, download it for free. If you just look up electronic music projects R.A. Penfold PDF, I'm sure you'll find it. I found it the other day, and tonight I've been clearing out my books cupboard, and I found this, so I thought I'd just and these other books, so I thought I'd just do a quick thing, because this is something somebody asked me about this. So YouTube's a good place to put videos for my friends, but also if anyone else is interested. Anyway, there we go.